in 2 minutes, and each group will have about 4 minutes to report back. And we'll start from here, all the way. So what we would like each one of you is to, don't bring the chair, just bring yourself to this table, and we'll follow.
Okay, so in here, so we discuss about the recruiting. Also, our main point is the matching at the state. Also, firstly, we discuss with the state, but this discussion is not expand so much. So that's why we focus on matching. So the matching case, so we want to pick up the 2 points. What is how to define the how to know the best matching, also how to know the bad matchings. So in the best matching case, if the one person knows each other, like the environment, also the company. So that case, it's a very easier to know each other. So but the bad case, like just matching. So this case, sometimes we don't know each other. So the information is very important. So because sometimes in our experience, we want to get any information about the reviews from the any bad reviews, right? Like so the person who work in the such company also gets a website. Also sometimes meets the person we already know as an unofficial interview. So this is so one of the we think so the important point. We know that what is so how to know each other more deeply. So this is a summary of our discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
In our discussion, we firstly define the system analysis. So the issue we face, people face when we're speaking about recruiting is we are speaking mainly about recruiting company. So there is 3 ways when someone wants to change his job in a mid-career. He could apply directly to another company, sending emails or this kind of thing, or he could apply through a website. But in order to do so, you need to have a precise idea of the job you're willing to take or the industry you want to join. So the third way, and that's the way we talk the most about, is applying through recruiting company. So basically, people will ask a recruiter in a recruiting company to help them to find a new industry or to answer their asperity. So the problem with this recruiting company is the quality and actually some people have difficulty to choose a recruiting company because they don't know if the company will really help them or will just, how can I say it politely, don't care too much about what they really want or willing to do. So the 3 ideas we find in order to improve the system is mainly a new evaluation system for recruiter. So we didn't define it that well, but finding a way to have kind of ranking in the recruiting companies that people could choose more easily which is the best recruiting company. And the second is that maybe in Japan changing job is not so popular, and some people think that changing job is maybe because people are not committing enough to the company. So there is also like this mentality should change, should move to, and it should be more easy to change a job and not consider as a bad thing. And the last point we mentioned was before going to a recruiting company, maybe it should be some information from an advisor about what kind of possibility is offered on the market or such a thing. And that's it.
Okay, great. So the first one, the rating is like a Zagat's survey type of. Okay.
This kind of.
Okay, I see. And if we have a Zagat survey or Michelin of recruiting companies.
Kind of.
I see. Okay.
we talked about some keywords, and the people who hesitate to join in the startup company, startup ecosystem is the fear for security, and not only the financial security, but also, well, so to speak, societal security thing. And it's really hard for Japanese to see the recovery example. It's so rare. And if there is the community or there is a media that we can easily reach their history or example of recovery thing from the failure, maybe that is the difficulty for the people who hesitate to go into the system. And also we talked about, not in here, but education thing. So when the college graduates go into the labor market, they usually, in Japanese, they usually think, okay, I'm not that qualified, I'm not ready to do this. So I have to learn in the labor, learn in the real business. But not globally, not all the university students think they are not qualified because they are in higher education, so they must be somehow qualified already. So probably the education system to make the student be confident about their capability is also important. And also we talked about a community thing, and it's based on one of our team members says her experience is she was surrounded by the people who started by themselves, started their business by themselves, and that inspired her, and that stimulates her, and that made her easy to do her own business. So probably the legal meetup of a community is important to do that. And also we talked about the financial support, and one of the banking guy said we want to encourage the startups, but it's really hard as a financial guy because they cannot keep doing it. And the roots rooted from I think the business environment of the existing industries or existing companies. Because usually if you think of the B2B business, the large companies don't want to do business with startups, even though it is a great idea or something. So I was just a young entrepreneur by myself, and what I think it's important to change is it's you yourselves. Probably you're hired in a large company where you're doing your business, but if you face some new ideas, or new challenges, new startups, then you should talk to them and you should accept their ideas, and don't start from risk assessment or criticizing their lack of their experience or lack of history, money, or talent. But try to encourage them, try to think how to encourage this mature people by their capability, or your power, your resources, your network. And that is the most important thing for startup ecosystem.
Thank you very much. So I think you mentioned that we don't have that many experiences or communities or the opportunity to share the failures.
Yeah.
Or their own stories.
Their own stories.
Okay.
And not only failures, but the recovery from failures.
Oh, okay, recovery from the failures. So probably if we have somebody who has recovered from the big failures, they can just share their experiences of how they recovered. And probably you can offer it as an auction. And some people will buy, and you can make money. Okay, good.
At first, we were discussing, given the fact that Japan supposedly have abundant talent, there are engineers in here, and also the resource, financial resource. I'm from Indonesia, and there are a lot of Indonesian startups who got funding from SoftBank, for instance. So why startup environment or startup in Japan is considered to be stagnant or slow, the growth? So we analyze all the obstacles, simplifying that with these three things that he mentioned it before, money, talent, and ideas. So I will start with the ideas first. So because this thing, there is like not positive environment in Japan for startup. So one of our friends mentioned that in Japan, generally startup just imitating or copycating idea with like the global startup, like the already established and successful startup from Silicon Valley, for instance. And that is not a good thing because it means Japan cannot compete in the global market. And that is actually a similar pattern with what happened in Southeast Asia or in Asia in general. We are kind of like copycating ideas from Silicon Valley. And that's not a good thing because if our target is to be on the top in the world, then we need to compete with the existing market or existing player. And the second one is about stability. So we also analyzed that, sorry to say, but generally Japanese are kind of not really willing to take the risk somehow. That's also correlate with this point that he mentioned earlier, why like in San Francisco, like the life of startup is very fast, but in here, although they kind of sense that our startup is not moving forward, but they're too afraid to quit. So that's unwillingness to take the risk. We also sense this pattern in the, like myself, like we're a college student about to graduate, and we're looking for stability. We're prefer to work in private companies, for instance, than starting our own business or join his business like a startup. So that's the lack of stability, which also relating with the lack of talent in the end.
What can you say?
Huh?
You say everything.
No, we have a lot of problems.
So basically, just to try to recap, what we said is like, coming up from these three squares, what we said is that right now there are people here having really good ideas and having like this kind of engine working. And then on the other side, you have these private institutions or even the government that is willing to pay for those ideas. But the problem is that this link is quite hidden. So we were discussing about like the possibility to not promote this funding and not promote these ideas, but promote the people who are making this happen. Like promoting these mentors, because it's kind of that's kind of like lacking right now.
Okay, good.
Who are those people?
Yeah.
Who will be
What
those
kind of,
people?
yeah, what kind of people?
Which people? Here or
Yeah.
here? Or
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
The
in the middle, yeah.
In the middle.
So
That's like
these
the
people,
connectors, right? Yeah.
right. So for example, we talk about a lot about incubators, a lot about accelerators, but these are very trendy names. So these are people who have had some experience or some background into business that are willing to say like, your idea makes sense. I kind of mentor you. Someone mentioned that word. I think that word is very key, a mentor. We need a mentor that say, hey, come and see the world, come and play outside. It's beautiful outside.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you for hearing our ideas. Basically, our group is a very, very creative person. We generated tons of ideas and programs. So global warming and environmental degradation, and we consider how to solve this problem. So, and one of the genius guy, his name is Ichiro-san, mentioned one very, very essential solutions. Why don't we focus on energy? If we make abundant energy, every problem go away. Because war comes from energy scarce, resource scarce. So we have abundant energy, so we can make water, food, and gun, everything, we can make it. So that's why we suggest, so first, a lot of tons of environmental degradation problem is there. Okay, and we generated power ourselves. So let me show my example. And in Singapore, try to make power bike, so bicycle, bicycle riding. And so Nanyang Technological University try to make this kind of energy generation system in campus area, and maybe 5 or 6 years after, it's on authorized on some Singapore areas. So I think that Singapore did it, and Japan also did it, and so we mentioned this kind of power generation themselves, and we try to solve every problem in the world. Okay, thank you.
How is it, I'm not quite sure how is it related to the movie.
So basically, the homework that I was given is I have to come up with a technology or a vision of how the world can be better in 10 years or 20 years, like the near future. So it could be technology or not, but I think the idea based around being able maybe to create resources, to create energy through some sort of technology, and somebody creates this, and then it starts to spread, right? So war starts to break down, and then you can kind of envision a future. So that's what the director wants to create, is to try to give a movie where people can envision a better society, where war starts to break down. So I like it. There's the seeds of an idea there.
Okay.
Thank you, Ichiro.
Thank you.
Let me start on the setting first.
Yeah.
So basically, we'll imagine in maybe 5 years, we'll be living in a mixed reality where we don't need glasses to like experience virtual reality. You can just pop out from maybe your desk or the TV screen. And we imagine AI is going to take over most of the jobs, all of its duties. And cars like Tesla, they're going to drive themselves. And we can pretty much control everything through voice. And we hope we can communicate with our animals as well, because especially in Japan, especially in Japan, the society is getting older and the marriage rate is getting like lower. So maybe you need like a friend, like an animal, so we can talk to you, kind of thing. You want to talk about the plot? Yeah. So we're gonna go to the plot.
And we are thinking about what kind of movie we can make. And movie should be impressive and ideally to attract possible founders so that we can we can establish a startup company. And we made a story about a person who is suffering from fatal disease in Japan, and that person needs to stay at home in the bed all the time. And with this situation, fortunately, a startup company established to research about teleporting. And this company, its mission is explore space to find a special element for medical treatment. And they brought the special element to the earth and to this person. And fortunately, this medicine works, and this person, the cause was found, and that person is cured totally. So it's a happy ending. This is a story.
Happy ending. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
We discussed about how to share the failure. For example, remove our titles or drinking with our boss. I said one idea I said is in order to share the failure, the boss set a meeting to share failure. In the meeting, the juniors says their failures 1 minute each, and after that, the boss advise juniors. There are more and more younger people in my company, so the boss want to know the juniors. So it's a very good way to share failures to set the meeting.
I see.
And that's
So,
all.
yeah, so it's like the meeting where everybody can share their failure examples, and the boss will advise. Okay.
I can add some like
Yeah, okay.
what we
Fine,
discussed.
fine.
So title means that what I noticed in Asian culture, the cable stuff, not only in Japan, I think China, Korea is the same. By having those like bujo or after the name, definitely makes it harder for juniors to speak up. So we suggest that remove the title. So I would say, and then everyone gives the English name. Then it's weird to say Steve Sang. Everyone says Steve to me in the firm. So like that. Hey Yoko, I have an idea. I have failed to share with you. I think you were wrong on this and that. I think much easier. Actually, there's one of the most famous startup in Korea called KakaoTalk. They actually implemented this recently. It's really successful. They removed all the titles. Everyone has an English name, and then they much better atmosphere to share things. The culture, the Taisuke-san mentioned, in Japan, usually the Osaka people has more like a fun, like when they talk. So if we can implement like good part of those culture in the floor, I think that's much better for people to speak up.
Okay, how many people are from Osaka area? Okay.
For you guys.
Count down here.
Yeah, agree, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then the drinking culture is kind of big culture in Japan. And then people here are afraid of sharing your failure because people here tend to be more shy and more the hazukashi or afraid of saying negative things. But if you start drinking, you start kind of the sharing, and then the words between the people kind of remove. So we want to implement this drinking so the part into, for example, once a week. The firm funds your team if you have nomikai, but sharing the failure nomikai.
Okay.
Then you fund it.
Yeah.
And then for the body, we kind of share, but there's likely that if I'm a Japanese and then he's a Japanese, then I'll be more afraid of sharing failure. But if he's Japanese, I'm a Western American, we think that he's more tendency to share the failure because everyone knows there in the brain that Western culture is acceptable for the failure. So we want to make a buddy between Japanese and those who have extensive experience abroad. And the frequency part is actually his firm. He shared the idea, but we pressed with his boss actually. So what his boss is doing is almost once a week. Actually the boss reached out to juniors to have a meeting and only to share the failures. Very impressive. So, and then lastly, the capacity shared by Maki-san. Yeah, Maki-san. And then she mentioned that in Japan, people tend to take more and more responsibility. So sometimes you reach out to your actual limit, but you still take more responsibility. After 5 years, you have a lot of things on your plate, but you can't refuse not to do it because everyone knows that you can do it. So what we suggest here is by sharing the failures, actually when you reach out to your limit in terms of workload, you share the things, sorry teammates, I think I'm reaching out the limit. I don't think I can do B, C, D. Then could you help me? Then I think it's not just sharing the limit and failures, but also the improving the teamwork. Yeah, that's kind of suggestion we want.
Okay, good. I know where they have this meeting called XQ meeting. That is where you can make all sorts of excuses. And so they had it every week, kind of. Because people really don't, want to state the excuses and stuff. So the same idea with the fader, but with the fader. And I also know that some of the Japanese companies, when they go abroad, they name everybody the American name. So we could do it here, yeah, since we're global. Okay, good. Let's go to the last group.
Basically, we're discussing about what causes the failure and how we can overcome it. It's like a simple structure, and I have to go one by one. One is like a lack of action. One, I think Mariko was mentioning that she implemented some project. She did it with 3 people, the project member, but she spent a lot of time in discussion only. So she didn't actually implement doing things. So that causes her to motivating, and that the project didn't last for a long period. So that's kind of failure. So it's kind of like an action leads to the motivation, and she lacked the action. So that causes the problem, like a failure. And the strategy is it's taking the courage to do some action. It's simple, and as you can clearly say that courage is another causes for the the failure. So I can continue discussion with courage later on. Second one is like a prioritization and focus. It's about, I shared my experience that I did a lot of, business creating activities simultaneously. I did 3 projects simultaneously, and I really lacked the focus and everything failed. So it is really important, what I learned, it's really important to prioritize and focus on the things, and that is important to avoid a failure. And the strategy is, it's about the mentality. We put 3 things. It's just rethink that do I have to do other things, or rather stay focused. And the second thing is, think about what you should not do. So don't, more and more, become more and more thinking about, exploring. And the third thing is that don't you think that you can everything. It's kind of like a mentality that you're not a genius. But some people are genius. But but you don't think that you rephrase yourself. And the third part, again, it's about the courage, the failure. It's about, I think Yuko mentioned that she wanted to start her own business, but she didn't have much courage to do that. And she's kind of like regretting because she could do that, and she's very sticking to that idea. And the strategy is like, it's about, one thing it's about knowledge. If she has more, like financial, knowledge and skills and confident about the business strategy, that maybe lead to take her more, courage. And the second one is, finding, I think this is very an interesting idea, that finding a good partner that can, make him or her, have some courage. So I didn't come up with this idea, so it's really, I think, interesting. And the last one is a lack of information. Hide was mentioning that it's about the tax-wise. He has his own business, but he lacks the information about the tax. So tax policy. So if he had more knowledge about the tax, he could save more money about the taxes. And the strategy is like he stopped asking and keep asking and moving about the tax. He just asked one person and he didn't get the right answer. So he stops in that he didn't move forward to ask and find a solution. So keep asking and keep moving is a very important person. So this is kind of like our discussion that we had.
Good. Good. Thank you very much. So,
I think this was fantastic. So I didn't expect this on Friday night, but this was really energizing, stimulating. For the people who did the movie ideas, can I get all of your names, just in case I borrow those? So with my name at the bottom of the screen. I like the comments about energy and how that really creates many of the global problems that we have. The idea about 1-minute meetings in your company talking about failure. I'll probably go do that in my company over the next week. Or actually, as a shacho of my company, I'll fund some nomikais if they talk about failure at the beginning. So that was pretty cool. The startup group back there, that linkage, identifying the gap between the money and the startups and the executors, I think that's very insightful. So if you could create something to promote that, that would really accelerate the system.
I know the one example actually done by the UFJ, the consulting company. They actually linked Japanese government funding with the NPO. So NPO has the model of their own business, and then they bring it to the UFJ consulting company. And then they match the, internally match the consultant and the NPO, and then they pool the government funding for the project. idea actually emerged from the NPO. That was a very good success example. And that was very, I think it's pretty close to you guys actually presented.
That's good. I think a lot can be done there.
Sorry.
No, that's good. But if you could create something like that, I think I'd be thankful, the startups would be really thankful. Recruiting is very interesting. I think it's a massive problem, and you guys started to chip away at it a little bit. I like the idea of ranking recruiters. Maybe not simply just kind of customer feedback, because it can be one-dimensional, but you start getting algorithms involved in doing that. So how many placements you're ranking them on the client side and the candidate side, so it can get quite sophisticated. It's actually a system we thought of before, but you guys might push me a little bit more to do it. So thank you very much. I think it was fantastic.